How many times have the refs ruined the game for your favorite team? Is the NFL fixing games, or does the NFL just have an officiating problem? It seems like every week a team falls victim to a call or an abundance of calls that the refs make, which dramatically swings the outcome of a game. Now, is that the fault of the team that is targeted with a bogus call? Some would say that the victim team did not do enough to win the game. They should have played well enough that any calls the referees make cannot determine the game's outcome. But the NFL is a league of parity, and scores of games are often so close that refs can sway a game in their favored direction. This causes us to wonder, who really makes these calls? Are there external influences that are biased towards specific teams getting favored to pull out a victory? Or how about within the league itself? Does Roger Goodell pull strings to alter the course of the season? Now, that may be a little far-fetched, but so many fans are frustrated and hurt to the point that these questions are rightfully reasonable to argue. You're watching The Halftime Show. We made a video on our channel about times referees ruined the NFL, and thousands of people feasted on it. So consider this video the following edition. We invite you to subscribe to our channel because we're working hard to bring you the content you love. Now, it sure seems the Kansas City Chiefs are the modern-day New England Patriots when it comes to being the most favored franchise in the NFL. When the Chiefs needed to be bailed out, you can count on the refs to come to their rescue, unlike any other team in the league. Did you watch that game on Sunday Night Football in Week 4 of the 2023 season? The refs robbed the Jets of a win. The score was 23-20 in the fourth quarter with 6:23 on the clock. Third and 22, Mahomes snaps the ball, and Jermaine Johnson gets blatantly held up by the left tackle Orlando Brown, freeing Mahomes to scramble through the middle and pick up the first. An absolutely ridiculous no call. The Jets' defense was locking up Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the second half. It was such a close game, and when a call needed to be missed, count on the refs. Fans cooled down, coming to realize that maybe the Zebras decided to hold back from calling any holding calls. But then all of a sudden, a few minutes later, the refs involved themselves again. This time, another third and long. Mahomes throws an interception, but it gets called back for, guess what? Holding, but on the defense. Terrible. Now, Sauce Gardner was physical and aggressive, and the call is valid, but can you call this officiating fair? Let's rewind to the 2022 AFC Championship game. The refs committed extreme insanity on the Bengals. The score was tied up 20-20 in the fourth quarter. There was 10:29 left on the clock. The refs were fumbling with the play clock and spotting the ball on third down. It was 3rd and 9. The NFL's favorite child was in the gun, and the refs allowed the play to take place. Mahomes snaps the ball and threw it to Travis Kelce, short of the first down. The Chiefs' punting unit took the field, but all of a sudden, Whistles and Zebras took the field and claimed that there was a misunderstanding and gave Mahomes and the Chiefs the third down back. Have you ever seen such a thing? Tell us how this is a justifiable call. Bengals head coach Zach Taylor was livid. How on earth is that possibly fair? The Bengals were able to overcome that brutal attempt by the refs to give them a loss, but that is not the case for every team. Now, Chiefs fans, enjoy your moment at the top. Don't cry when one day the tables are turned. The Detroit Lions are bullied multiple times by the refs in the 2022 season. For instance, the NFL even admitted to it. In Week 1, the Lions were competing with the Eagles. Jalen Hurts led his team to the red zone on first down. Jalen threw the ball to the ground to evade the pressure from Lions rushers, and the refs decided to miss a clear sight intentional grounding call, leading to the Eagles capitalizing and scoring on the drive. Anything could have helped the Lions in this game, especially some fairness. The game ended up resulting in the Eagles winning 38-35. That's not all. In Week 7 of that season, the Lions suited up against America's team. Another close game. The score was 10-6, Cowboys lead. There was 7 minutes left in the third quarter. The Cowboys fielded a punt, and 2 of their players made blocks in the back. One here and another right there. But I guess it pays to be America's team because the refs did not call it. In the following quarter, the Cowboys are still up 10-6. Sam Williams from the Dallas defense decided to get a little physical with Jamal Williams and full-on body slammed him to the ground. Now, I understand that NFL teams are not paying running backs these days, but the very least they can do is protect them from stupid stuff like this. Did the refs throw a flag here? Nope, no flag. Imagine if that were Patrick Mahomes getting slammed to the ground. I'm pretty sure we'd see the field flooded with yellow flags. But the Lions and the city of Detroit are not the favorite child. We have another terrible situation when the referees did the Lions super dirty a little later in the video, so hang tight. Let's go back in time to when disaster and chaos were at an all-time high for the fans of Cleveland. Today's football fans need to be reminded of such an event, the story of Bottlegate. On December 16, 2001, the refs did the Browns dirtier than the Browns can do their own fans dirty. Head official Terry McCauley and his crew were an embarrassment. The Browns were playing the Jaguars. A win for the Browns would help them keep their playoff hopes alive, which we all know, sadly, how rare of a feat that is for the Browns. Cleveland was down 15-10 with 1:08 remaining. The Browns attempted to convert on 4th and 2 at the Jaguars' 12-yard line. Tim Couch passed the ball to Quincy Morgan, who caught the ball for a 3-yard gain, being awarded a first down. Although Morgan appeared to bobble the football, the refs called it a complete pass. Tim Couch rushed the offense to the line and spiked the ball with 48 seconds on the clock. But then, the refs stormed the field and declared that they would review the 4th down conversion that happened 2 plays earlier and overturned it, giving the ball to the Jaguars. Holy moly, was there devastation! How desperate and unfair can the league and officials be that they could commit such an act? There are plenty of times when plays should be dealt with in such a manner, reviewed and overturned, but it just doesn't happen. Typically, when a play is completed, referees are not allowed to go back and change the previous call after another play has already been run. Browns fans were infuriated and began throwing objects onto the field. Beer bottles and trash cans were everywhere. Some fans even stormed the field before being stopped by law enforcement. After a few minutes, the refs called the game 48 seconds early, and the officials and players left the field, something never done before in the history of the NFL. However, after several minutes, NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue contacted McCauley and told him that he and his officiating crew did not have the authority to end the game early and that the game must be completed. The officials told the players in the locker room, many of whom were already undressed and showering, that they were required to go back out on the field. The teams and refs came back onto the field, and after 2 kneel-downs by the Jaguars, the game was over 15-10. Terrible for the Browns, but if you stick around a little longer, we share a moment when the refs did them a favor. Another team that is unfairly officiated is the Las Vegas Raiders. You cannot argue otherwise. We can make an entire video on the matter alone, possibly even a 10-part series of how many times the refs have treated the silver and black with wickedness, discrimination. But to keep it quick, just look at the Week 4 game from the 2023 season versus the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert was awarded a touchdown on a QB sneak, but look at the sideline view. He was inches short of crossing the goal line. Jacoby Myers was called for a crack block on this play. Tell me how that's a crack block. Maybe someone on the refs had to be playing against Jacoby Myers on fantasy that week because look at this. Jacoby Myers makes an incredible catch from Aiden O'Connell in quadruple coverage, but the refs called offensive pass interference. Would you call that a push-off? What makes this worse is that the game was later sealed after Josh Palmer caught a pass from Justin Herbert but made the same type of push-off on Jacorian Bennett, but there was no call from the refs on this one. That was a competitive game that got swung over to the Chargers by the refs. The Raiders played poorly and need to do better, but come on, the refs sure have a vendetta on the Raiders. In Week 18 of the 2022 season, some strange calls were going on during the Rams vs. Seahawks game that impacted the Lions' playoff chances. If the Rams won the game, which it was close, and the Lions win their game that week, which they did, the Lions would have made the playoffs. But with the help of the refs, the Seahawks narrowly won that game versus the Rams. The Lions played the Packers in Green Bay, and even though they were already eliminated from advancing to the playoffs, they still pulled out the victory. The refs favored the Packers tremendously. There were explosive plays that the Lions made that were called back, giving the Lions a large mountain to climb to win the game. For instance, look at this nasty hit that DeAndre Swift took from Jarran Reed. Yes, football is a violent sport, but was this hit necessary? The refs did not throw a flag on this play. How do you explain this? Now, I'm sure you have other moments you can share with us when the unfairness of the refs abused your team. Please tell us in the comments which attacks you remember impacted your team. You never know, they may end up in a future video. Our last incident for now brings us back to when the Browns were redeemed in Week 7 versus the Colts in the 2023 season. The officiating was so terrible that the Colts owner shared that the NFL admitted that the refs made incorrect calls that lost his team the game. With under a minute left in the fourth quarter, the Browns moved deep into Colts territory before P.J. Walker lost the ball after a sack, which defensive tackle DeForest Buckner recovered. However, Indianapolis cornerback Darrell Baker Jr. was called for illegal contact, giving Cleveland a fresh set of downs. Just a play later, Darrell Baker got called for defensive PI on what many believed was an uncatchable ball, setting up the Browns at the goal line. Moments later, Kareem Hunt scored the game-winning touchdown to give the team a 39-38 victory. This was gut-wrenching for the Colts and proved there is much-needed reform in the NFL's officiating department. What changes should be made? How can the NFL put an end to these brutal mistakes by the refs? Or is the NFL purposely behind it? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let the debates begin. Thank you for watching the Halftime Show. If you like this video, please share it with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.